Awesome. From camo to crypto, from MREs to NFTs, and from deployed base to right here at Coinbase, welcome to Serve at Coinbase's Veterans Day Voices Fireside Chat. So for all of you that don't know, Serve is Coinbase's employee resource group dedicated to empowering veterans, emergency responders, affiliates, and allies. I'm your host, Greg Bachelor, and I'm joined today by three lovely Coinbase veterans, Philip Martin, Cicely Williams, and Adam Bishop. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Great. Thanks, Greg.
Having a great time?
Yeah.
All right, I'll let them introduce themselves in a minute. I wanted to talk about the theme for today's discussion, which is allyship in transition. So we all made the transition from the military to civilian workforce, and allies, while not members of the military per se, are invaluable in helping military members find opportunities, whether that's job placement, training, getting that foot in the door with that interview. And a lot of what we do is thanks to allies. And of course, we'll talk a bit about crypto as well. So a little bit about myself before we get started. I'm an Air Force veteran, served for about 8 years, and still currently serving in the reserves. I'm in 13 Bravo Air Battle Manager, and I split my active duty time flying on the NATO AWACS in Germany, as well as on a ground assignment at Hill Air Force Base in Utah. I got to Coinbase in March of this year, and I work as a candidate experience coordinator or a recruiting coordinator. And I asked the panel to kind of share a funny military stereotype that they've heard before they got in. And I have to say, as the token Air Force person, the chair force stereotype, until I got in, I swear it wasn't true, but now I swear that the revamped PT test should include sitting in a chair for 8 hours and trying not to get a blood clot in your leg. So, all right, enough about me. Philip, Cicely, Adam, you're the stars, so why don't you introduce yourselves?
Sure, I can go ahead and go first. I'm Philip Martin. I lead security here at Coinbase. I served in the Army for total of 10 years, counterintelligence agent. At the time, 97 Bravo, and they changed it right after I got out, 37 Lima. I'm also an Arabic linguist, so I was fortunate enough to be sent to the Defense Language Institute down in Monterey. Beautiful facility, beautiful area, and had Arabic pounded into my skull for 8 hours a day for a year and a half.
Wow.
Incredibly, a great time and incredibly academically challenging. I have a little bit of a weird career path because I was a software engineer before I joined the military. And then, after I got out, came back into the fold, as it were, in technology. Excited to be here.
Awesome. I'll go next. My name is Cicely Williams, U.S. Army National Guard for Nevada for 11 years. I joined the military July 2010, and I was a logistics officer for the first 6 years after going to OCS, Officer Candidate School, and having a degree prior to joining the military in criminal justice. I wanted to work for the FBI, but I didn't have any special skills other than I could hold a gun and run. So they said, well, we don't need that. We need somebody else. We need a lawyer or, somebody that can speak another language. We need a specialty right now. So instead I said, okay, I'll go to the military then and see if they can pay for a specialty, and then I'll come back to you. So I just pigeonholed the FBI while I worked in Vegas and joined the National Guard. I thought they were going to help me get to the FBI. And then the last 5 years of my career, I was a UH-60 Alpha Lima Blackhawk pilot. Great time in my life. Really showed me a lot of skills that you just can't get otherwise when you're, 1,000 feet off the ground, going, 100 knots, and you got radios and weapon systems and people shouting at you. It changes your life. So did that for the last 5, and deployed with a great unit out of Nevada, and I just got back in August of last year, and then got out in January of this year of the military, but still on the IRR side. So if I choose to go back, I can make that easy transition. Started at Coinbase May of this year, May 24th exactly of this year, and I'm a support analyst on the wallet team. So anything you need to know when it comes to our private external wallet, please just hit me up. funniest military stereotype. I didn't want to do a job that was too hard, so I didn't join the Marine Corps. And I didn't want to do a job that was too easy, so I didn't join the Coast Guard. And I just wanted that Goldilocks of all the forces, and so I joined the Army. And
Just right.
you can do enough just to get by, and I liked that. You can pass your PT and stay under the radar, and I really liked that. And so ever since I got out, I couldn't believe that I got this job. I had no tech background whatsoever. So it's been a miracle and a blessing working here. So thanks for this, Greg, and I'm excited for today.
Yeah, awesome to have you.
My name is Adam Bishop. I was in the Army for 6 years, 6 months, and 9 days. Most people can tell you down to the day. I commissioned from West Point May 21st, 2011. And after commissioning, went to basic officer course for intelligence, became an intelligence officer, served my first tour in Fort Hood, Texas, went to Afghanistan during that time. I served in an aviation unit while in Texas, and then eventually made my way up to Washington to finish my last few years at Joint Base Lewis McChord as the intelligence officer for an artillery unit. I started at Coinbase October 4th of this year, so I was told that almost makes me an old timer.
That's true.
And here at Coinbase, I'm a program manager serving in the customer experience PMO. So we're responsible for screening all incoming projects for the organization and ensuring that they're layered with proper prioritization, organization, and governance. And those types of kind of facets of a project are very familiar to veterans who have served in any type of leadership or staff capacity. So I've found it easy to be a great fit so far here at Coinbase. As far as funny stereotype, I'll pick a less controversial one. In my first unit, the helicopter battalion, we had a reputation for playing ultimate frisbee for PT instead of doing ruck marches like we were supposed to. So that was fun.
Sounds like Air Force PT to me.
I just want to say that you're all making me feel old because I got in 2002 and out in 2012. So
That's not old.
Well, I did my 10 years almost before y'all joined. So.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Well, we're glad to have your experience, Philip.
Yes, experience. That's right.
Oh, I thought you were going to say his experience, like he is old. I was like, we're trying to get away from that, Greg. He's not old.
Hey. All right, thanks, y'all. Why don't we dive right into the questions then, so we can start talking about it. Let's see. The CEO of Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, was recently on the Bankless podcast where he talked about the reasons why people get into crypto. It was brought up that there are three main reasons among all of them that people get into it, right? Money, the technology behind it, and values. Brian said that he's excited by the values, he loves the tech, and is a capitalist at heart. The military is so vastly different from the fintech landscape that we're in right now. Philip, I want to first ask you, you've been here the longest out of all of us, that experience, right? Why did you want to work at Coinbase, and what interested you in crypto in the first place?
So for me, it was the technology. And actually then the technology drew me to Coinbase and the people I met when I started interviewing and connecting with folks is really what cemented the need. I think that I have this sort of outlook that for most people in most jobs, they should be copying about 80% of the work that they're doing, right? And then not in a bad way. It's an efficient way, right? Because you're probably not solving this problem for the first time. You're probably solving it for the 100,000th, millionth time. And there's just no need to do work you don't need to do. And then the rest of the work is like sanding off the rough edges, making that solution fit this shape, whatever it is, right? And that's fine. And there's a lot of value in that. And what drew me to Coinbase was that we can't do that here in a lot of cases. because we can certainly take inspiration from problems that have been solved historically. We can sometimes take negative inspiration. We can say, I'm definitely not going to do it that way, right? But a lot of the times we're solving problems from whole cloth, right? And we're building things that are genuinely new because they have to be new because no one's ever built an NFT marketplace before.
No
right?
Stack Overflow for crypto, right?
Correct, right? And so that to me is extremely exciting.
Yeah, similarly, I also, what originally drew me to Coinbase was, well, let me back up even further. When I decided that I wanted to be an Army officer, I knew that I wanted to go to West Point. For me, it was just about, if I'm going to dedicate myself to this profession, then I want to set myself up with what was historically the primary source of Army officers. And similarly, when deciding to get into crypto as a career, the only choice is Coinbase. So if I want to be with the best, then join the best. And so that's what originally set me off down the path to join Coinbase. And then, like Philip, I think what brought me to crypto specifically was the tech aspect. And as an intelligence officer, the security aspects of blockchain technology and the whole crypto economy that is developing into Web3 and layer 2 solutions. Not to get too technical on all the acronyms, but that is really exciting to me to see how that can take our economy and turn it into so that a crypto economy is just the economy in the future.
Yeah.
And then, but I find myself already in just being here for 2 months of really latching on to the values and seeing that a lot of the things that are already happening or coming down the pike really drive at the heart of the values of Coinbase and creating an open financial system and economic freedom. So that's what's really exciting to me.
Yeah. Wow. You guys have such great answers. I'm going to try to pair up, but I think the number one reason I was even drawn to Coinbase or knew anything about it was my from birth ally, my big sister, Veronica Hash. She is a huge fan of Coinbase. She didn't have one word bad to say about Coinbase. And when I came back from deployment and was just going to live off my savings for a year and be a bum, I was like, I eventually am going to get a job, I promise. But I just don't want a job right now. And she said, you know what, check this out. Coinbase, we offer continuous learning stipends. We offer opportunities for you to get involved, with fireside chats and ERG groups. And I'm just like, what is an ERG, right? She was talking about all of the different backgrounds that they had at Coinbase and the diversity they had, the communication, the open source communication that they had. And I was like, no way, that's too good to be true. I'm from the military. I know you're talking a good game. You just want me to sign on the dotted line. I'm not going to do it.
Recruiter's pitch. Yeah.
It sounds like a recruiter's pitch. It's too good to be true. And then I started talking to some of her Coinbase, which they're called, and they were hyping it up just like she was, but they were honest. They were just straight up honest with me. And they said, listen, I think you're looking for a challenge, something a little bit different than the military. Maybe not as physical, maybe not as mentally, jarring, but a challenge, an exciting, and a challenge that's just as exciting as flying was. And I thought, you know what? I think you're right. I'm nervous. I don't know anything about crypto. I'm not tech savvy. Heck, after SEER, I deleted my Facebook, my Instagram, my Twitter, my Snapchat. I didn't even know anything was going on. So she was my original, my recruiter. She was my original Army recruiter for sure. And then once I talked to more people that had worked with Coinbase, and once I started getting online and seeing what was going on. I even did the learn and earn. I got like $26 worth of learn and earn. And I was
Awesome.
like, okay, I'm ready now. I started my second degree in computer science. I, immediately applied and did the interviews. And I just realized, you know what, it's not the same as that adrenaline rush of the military, but it's even more valuable, I think, because those soft skills that we have and those communication skills that we have to be able to adapt to any situation and do well in ever changing moments. It made me ripe for this position, and
Yeah.
crypto is changing every day, all the time, and we have to change with it. And
Yeah.
so yeah, she was definitely my recruiter. But then once I got the job, I was like, I'm more interested in crypto than I've ever been. I'm on Pancake Swap.
Yeah.
I'm staking, I'm yielding, I'm farming, and it's wild. I mean, I never imagined that I'd be in a place like this, but I'm so thankful that I'm here now. And I mean, the rest is history. Now I'm here doing this fireside chat with you guys. Like, I can't believe
Exactly.
it.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, how are you with crypto? Are you a crypto evangelist too, with all your friends and military buddies?
Yes, I just held a small fireside chat with my roommates about Coinbase Wallet. They were very excited. They're definitely going to be recording their seed phrase in multiple places.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So behind crypto, right? It's this whole like cryptocurrency. So according to the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, I want to talk about veterans are almost twice as likely, about 58%, to have debt carried over month to month than their civilian counterparts. More than half of all veterans say they're ill prepared for a financial emergency, and financial literacy is a huge topic in our community, right? So Coinbase believes on educating people on crypto, and one of our mission statement, right, is that financial and economic freedom. So, Cicely, you do work on the wallet side as a support analyst. How can Coinbase and crypto be used to help our community, our military community?
I This was a tough question for me. I feel like sometimes having that financial and economic freedom comes from asking questions, comes from
Sure.
just being willing to say, I don't know what I'm doing with my money and I need help. And that seemingly simple step of just asking for help is not something that the military preaches. Thankfully, it's changing,
Definitely not.
but it's definitely not something we do. We're expected to know, right away. We gave you a hint, go north, be there in 20 minutes. And
Mm,
how you get there is up to you. And so a lot of times when it comes to our financial situation, we do tend to say, I got this. I'm good. I can figure it out on
yeah.
my own. So Coinbase kind of having that open source forum of learn and earn, and just having that the Coinbase blog available for you, you're able to sort of get help without asking for it right away. And so I think that's sort of kind of breaking down that barrier a little bit more. But I think the most important thing that Coinbase does is the referral program with Greenhouse. We're able to say, hey, listen, I know a good person. I know somebody who's hardworking and would be great for a position here, but maybe they don't want to ask, or maybe they're confused about how to go forward with it or get their foot in the door. I know what I'm
Sure.
going to do. I'm gonna refer them, and I'm going to put them up for an offering, so to speak. I'm going to give them as tribute, so to speak, because a lot of times we feel like we should have it all together and we should know the answers. And to get to that financial standpoint that we want to be at, where we are paying down our debt or paying off our debt, or we are investing and making large moves in crypto, it comes first from just kind of saying, I don't know everything yet. I'm willing to ask, and I'm willing to let somebody else sort of take care of me for a minute. I don't have to always take care of everyone else. And just having like different products available too for the different level of experience, commerce, borrow, I mean,
Yeah.
wallet. We have so many different options for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if I could just add on to
Oh,
that
yeah.
as well. Speaking of the offerings of Coinbase, I've seen a statistic about how more people around the world have access to the internet and have a smartphone than have a bank account. And
Sure.
so one thing that Coinbase can facilitate are things like remittances. And a lot of veterans come from outside the United States. They may join to have a fast track to citizenship. And so even someone that I went to West Point with, his family, or on his dad's side, came from Central America. And he told me a story of how they would send money from Western Union. It would take days to get there.
There's the fees.
Fees added,
Yeah.
exactly. And so having access to the internet and Coinbase can, once the education piece picks up and we can demonstrate to people how this can really change their lives, like Cicely was saying, then that will absolutely help the veteran community who deal with these types of financial challenges on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And that's, I mean, like what Cicely was saying about how veterans it's the culture's changing, right? Where we're not used to asking for a lot of help, especially when we're in the service. So why should it change when we're outside? And the fact that kind of bridging, and like that the culture's changing, but in bridging that gap, right, we offer these services. Coinbase wants to make you smart on crypto, wants to, teach you how to use it, because this is the future. You, like, whether you accept it or not, this is the way that like finances are going. So yeah, I love that. And hopefully that it helps prepare, veterans for that transition, help that financial literacy, right? You're not getting taken care of by the government anymore. You're not having everything provided for you. You're not getting BAH. You're not getting a stipend for this, that, and whatever, right? You have to find your own doctor now. So just like helping people prepare is the biggest thing. Awesome. Yes. Philip, anything you wanted to add on top of that?
Nothing to add to that. Yeah. The best thing to do when you got nothing to say is to say nothing.
Hey. So I'm going to present some numbers. According to a 2019 survey by the DoD itself, around 200,000 service members transition out of the military each year. That includes reserves, guard, active duty, and what have you, right? Veterans have a staggering 12% unemployment rate, which is close to double their civilian counterparts. Adam, you are the most recent to join the company. So I just wanted to get your feel, like, what are some of the roadblocks you ran into on your journey and transition into Coinbase? And like, were there any allies or any help that you got along the way to help ease that transition?
Sure. So I think, again, taking a step back into my initial transition from military to civilian life, one of the biggest hurdles is just knowing where to start. So the biggest thing that I was able to check the box on is knowing that I didn't want to transfer my skills identically into a civilian type role and continuing to do private intelligence. So then it was, okay, well, now where else could I take all of these soft skills that you accumulate in the military? And so that's a difficult piece, is figuring out, just knowing what's out there that you can translate those skills into, first of all. And then the second piece is, which can kind of follow you into any job, and was also something that I dealt with when applying for Coinbase, which is, how do I literally translate my military experience into something that's relevant and targeted for the job and industry that I'm applying for? And whenever I help other veterans with resume prep, it usually revolves around kind of sterilizing the military aspect of it, because especially in tech, there aren't many veterans, and so a lot of that gets lost in translation. And so that's a big thing that we can do as vets in the tech industry when people reach out to us, is to help them translate those skills and really understand that there is a place for you. We just have to, do some work.
True. It almost feels
Yeah.
like you need like a Rosetta Stone for different MOSs and different AFSCs that can kind
Yeah.
of translate all of those skills,
Uh-huh.
right? Because like,
Yeah.
what the hell does an air battle manager have to
Right.
do in the tech space?
Yeah,
You
Google
know?
translate your PT score into something
Exactly.
meaningful.
Exactly. And that can be even difficult, right? As an Air Force veteran talking to an Army veteran that's in the company, I don't know if we'd have, ease of like communication in terms of like the translation of what I
Mhm.
did versus what you think I did, right?
Right.
Yeah. I think that's actually the hardest
Yeah.
part. You're exactly right. Is that translation, because the job field that you're in, actually, from my perspective, is a minority of the skill sets that people take out of the military. People take a resilient mindset. They take a mission focus. They take an awareness of the team, not just of the self. They take the ability to act on incomplete, imperfect information. There's so much that veterans come out of the military with that has just nothing at all to do with their job, and that employers, tech, non-tech, whoever, really want. Right? Really, really want those qualities and skills. And like, especially in tech, right? Like, I can teach someone to write Python.
Right.
That's not that hard. Teaching someone to have a team before self mindset, that's incredibly hard for me, right? On the verge of undoable in a reasonable time frame.
Absolutely.
And so being able to express those skills and those experiences effectively in a resume, very, very difficult. Hiring managers, just like you said, Adam, are largely not going to be veterans or come from that background, and they're going to have these misconceptions about military service and about what that means. And so the translation and the education is just so important.
Yeah.
Exactly. And maybe navigating through some of those like military stereotypes too. One of the co-leads, one of our Marine friends over at SERVE, he was saying that when he was going through the hiring process, the hiring manager straight up asked him, "Are you going to be able to lead people without yelling at them?" As a Marine, funny, but also incredibly insulting in a lot of ways too. So just kind of navigating those stereotypes as well as translating what skills you have, right? Those intangibles that a veteran brings to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenge for me, though, definitely, was feeling like the civilians were in a mafia, and if you didn't know somebody in the maid family, like, you weren't getting that job. I mean, I could bust out a really professional resume, write a cover letter that just would blow you away, and have so many skills that I just couldn't fit on one page. I'd have to, bring it over to two. And I do the interviews, and I felt really, really good after I left, and then I wouldn't get the job. And then I'd hear later, a couple weeks later, it was so and so, his friend or sister or something like that got the job. And I thought,
Better
darn,
luck next time. Yeah.
okay, no problem, next time. But it started to change me. It started to change me a little bit as I started to apply for jobs. Then I started looking for people that I knew, and I'd say, hey, listen, can you talk to them for me first, and then I'll apply? And they were like, "Oh, okay, sure. I'll try. I'll see what I can do." And a couple of times it worked. I mean, no joke, it worked. I talked to the person first, then I applied for the job, and I got it. And I was like, "Oh, I like this. This is better." But it also taught me that it's tough out there. It's really not about our skills and and the way we can translate one thing into another, or how well we can write it down. To me, it starts to become like kind of like who do you know? And so with Coinbase, I mean, my ally was definitely my sister for sure. But now my ally is this greenhouse system. I'm not kidding you. I've put in 2 referrals already, and I'm, and I'm like,
Not
I'm
stopping there.
yeah, I'm not stopping there, because I feel like we can give our friends and our family members and our service brothers and sisters a chance. But once they get their foot in the door with maybe us, it's all on them now. It's all on them
Absolutely.
now. The 5 or 6 interviews you have to do, maybe the working interview you have to do, I'll give you a little push, but if you don't take it from there, you're not going to get the job, because Coinbase is like, we're going to see if you have what it takes. We're going to ask you the hard questions. Like, yes,
Mhm.
granted, your sister works here, or your brother, or your friend, that's awesome. But if you can't do the job that we need you to do, we're not going to hire you. And I thought, that's all I wanted. That's all I
Yeah,
wanted was
a
a
chance.
chance to
Yeah.
prove myself. That's it. So I think that was the roadblock that I saw being in the guard, and Philip, you have to have a full-time job. The guard's not going to be the end all be all. You've got to have something to pay the bills and to put food on the table. And you've
Mhm.
got to have a job that's willing to help you out when you have to go to school and you have to go to training and you have to go to drill weekends. And so it was a tough go for a while. And I'm just thankful that, Coinbase, I don't feel like it has that. I feel like it's like, hey, bring us people that you like and and you think that'll do a good job, but then they'll take over after that and they'll show us if they have what it takes. And I
Yeah,
like that.
I think that's exactly one of those areas that veterans aren't prepared for coming out of the military, right? The military is a small community. People think of the military as this like huge machine, right? But
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially if you're in the same career field, I bet Cicely, if you sit down with another Blackhawk pilot, you can play the name game and like you'll
Yeah.
find someone you know in common pretty quick,
Oh yeah.
right?
Absolutely.
And so when someone's looking and B, no one's generally applying for assignments. Sure, it happens in some contexts, but it's a different like dynamic. And so when folks come out of that into the civilian world, where you generally you don't have that level of connectedness.
You don't.
I think a lot of people just don't even think about, actually the best way to land on a hiring manager's desk is through a referral,
Right.
right? It's through that, because otherwise this
You
hiring
don't.
manager is looking
Yeah.
at 1,000 resumes. How in the world are they going to do it?
Yeah.
And it's not about, who knows who or sister's brother or whatever. It's about that hiring manager being able to get the maximum amount of signal to make the best choice that they can, right? And so that is just another skill to learn on the civilian side when applying for a role, is that if you find a company you like, one of the first things you do is you go through your LinkedIn or your Facebook, whoever,
That's
you ask,
true.
who do I know that works there?
That's
Both to get a little bit of intel on the company, right?
Mhm.
As well as to then create that warm introduction that is so much more valuable than a resume in an inbox.
So I guess less of a roadblock and more of a soft skill that you're going to have to
Yep.
warm up to.
100%.
That's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's this hashtag on LinkedIn, veterans helping veterans, right? So aside from allies helping, right, I really appreciate that this community is really open to like making that introduction, making that warm intro, and kind of giving honest feedback about what they think about the culture and everything about the company. So definitely something that is great about our community in general.
True.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask quickly about the guard, because you were both in the guard. Sorry, Adam, to leave you out. West Point guy.
Sorry.
No worries. But Cicely and Philip, did you find it tough balancing your work with your guard commitments? Because I'm a reservist as well. So, when the military calls you up, it calls you up, and there's not much that a lot of companies can do. They're contractually obligated to act a certain way. But aside from that, like, are there ways you think companies can go above and beyond just their obligation to their serving member, or something that you've seen when you were trying to balance?
I mean, a couple of things for me. One is it really started to get hard to balance as I moved into leadership roles. And there's a world where like you can just do what you need to do on a drill weekend, and that world is a terrible place to live. And nothing ever happens right. Nothing's ever as it should be. You spend the entire drill cleaning M16s in an armory, and like it's terrible. Right? And then there's a world where you have, a bunch of time outside of that drill weekend where you're doing conference calls and where you're quite frankly doing your job as a leader and checking in on your people, and making sure that, they're doing what they need to do, that they're okay.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of time, right? So the at the very, very end, as I was getting out of the guard, I was in a platoon sergeant role. So I had a good number of, enlisted out there who, as junior enlisted sometimes do stupid stuff. And part of being a good leader, at least what I thought, part of being a good leader was in that context, was checking in on my people. Now, it didn't matter if they were in drill status or not drill status or whatever. Having that touch point, I thought, and I still believe, is critical to being a great leader. And that comes into direct conflict with family time, with work time,
Absolutely,
with everything else. That was eventually why I got out. Was you're looking at the sort of time commitments here and asked, where do I want to spend the time? And that came down to family. And it came down to my civilian job, not my military job. I think in terms of like what employers can do, I was really blessed early in my career. So when I went into the military initially 2002, I was working for Sun Microsystems. And at the time, Sun Microsystems actually extended a lot of benefits to reservists that were in deployed status. Right. So that, when I went through, so because I went through, both Intel school and Arabic language training, my initial training period is almost 2 years long. Right. Yeah. From boot camp to like fully skilled, I guess.
Fully formed. Yeah.
So you went through boot camp while initially working at Sun?
Yep. And so having that extended level of support was super awesome. And then I think, things like this, ERGs, right? Like, well, this is one thing Sun didn't do that Coinbase does, is it was super hard to find a community of veterans, both at Sun and then at all the other companies I've been at, who share experiences, who can relate, who understands what veterans can go through, right? Every year at Coinbase, on Memorial Day, I do a whole company post saying like, hey, look, if you're a veteran or someone who's a veteran who's going through a hard time, like my phone number is in my Slack profile. Give me a call. Yeah. Right. And a lot of people will react to that like, what's the big deal? What's going on? They just don't have the background. Right. So something like a SERVE ERG can make it easier for folks to connect to those resources, to reach out and contact people that understand what they're going through.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah, 100%. Just for me, I think I was blessed as well, Philip, especially with the Nevada National Guard. I worked in Vegas at one of the casinos, the Venetian Palazzo, and they have a fantastic history of giving you extra time off, not digging into your PTO, not holding you ransom, for when you get back from school saying you better work overtime, weekends, nothing like that. They pay you while you're away. The MGM Grand will actually pay its reservists and guard members while they're away serving. Don't quote me on that. I haven't been in Vegas since 2010, but they did at the time. I think you're right, though. When you're enlisted, that 1 weekend a month, 2 weekends a year, especially private first class, yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. Once you start getting up to that staff sergeant, platoon sergeant, first lieutenant, second lieutenant, and so on, you are absolutely seeing a jump in your commitment. You're starting to see those calls in the middle of the week. You're starting to see, hey, you've got to check up on so-and-so. You've got to wake up early at 5 a.m. to do remedial PT with somebody. What? I do? Yes, you do. You're a leader now, and you need to lead. And we're not asking you, we're telling you.
Yeah.
And if you want to succeed, if you want your soldiers to succeed, that's those extra days. And it did. It started to cut into my time as well. And I said, well, if I'm going to do this full time, I feel like I'm full time, but I'm only being paid part time. why don't I join the active duty side? And then, obviously went to flight school and got deployed. And, I was like, wow, this is too much. I'm
Yeah.
out. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
I was okay with part-time, full-time's no joke because you're
Yeah.
working full-time, but then you're working overtime. Like
Mhm.
you're working your regular job in the active. And I'm sure Adam, this is, and Greg, you're working your full-time job as an active duty member, but then they want
Yeah.
you as a part-time role as well,
Oh,
which
yeah.
is not in the contract. That is just voluntold.
Yeah.
So for me, working at the Venetian Plaza, working with those companies that were veteran first, veteran forward, I never had a problem, and I couldn't imagine working for a company who didn't see the sacrifice as a blessing and to be proud of it and to do whatever they could to make sure that you succeeded.
Yeah.
It for me, yeah, it's always been such a pleasant experience having to leave at the drop of a hat. But I did obviously give them as much communication as I could. I tried to give them
Mhm.
my drill dates in advance. I tried to give them my schooling in advance. The military is something that doesn't really, you can make a plan and then it
Oh, yeah.
totally changes. But the more communication I had with them, the more understanding they were if things changed on a dime. So
And with
Yeah.
a company like Coinbase that puts so much emphasis on all of these voluntary benefits that they offer,
yes.
everything down to it's one thing just to meet the federal requirements from a legal perspective of FMLA,
Mhm.
but to extend that to 18 weeks for maternity and paternity leave, and to even
Yes.
offer time off for adoption, to cover
Yes.
fertility treatment,
Yes.
just
Yeah.
to name a few. I mean, if there's that level of detail for taking care of their employees, then that's going to translate into things like guard and reserve time.
Mhm.
And similarly, we recently announced a few partnerships with some other great organizations, the Commit Foundation, Bunker Labs, and Shift. And we're also looking
All
into
great.
exploring some other pipelines that offer internship for transitioning
Yep.
veterans,
Yep.
maybe with Hiring Our Heroes and Breakline. And these are going to offer Coinbase access to the best that the military has to offer from their transitioning vets, because it is hard to break into the corporate world, let alone the tech world, as a veteran. And so, in partnering with these other organizations that are already familiar with helping vets, I think that Coinbase can really become a leader in showing other companies what it means to tap into this bottomless resource of talent.
Absolutely. And I'm glad we're setting off on the right foot too. Yeah, that's great. And just as you touched on it, tech is like notoriously difficult to break into, especially for vets, right? We have those soft skills that we're trained in all throughout our careers, but what they're looking for in tech are the hard skills.
Mhm.
You named a couple that helped that transition to help gain those hard skills. Cicely, Philip, I know in your organization you probably have a lot of people that have gone through some of these different pipelines. Have you seen
Mhm.
any resources that stand out to you that have helped veterans make that transition?
I'd say LinkedIn for sure. I know that we were talking about that a little bit earlier, but I did not know anything about LinkedIn until recently. And I did. I found a lot of my old buddies from OCS, from just recently at Fort Rucker,
Yeah.
who had gotten out and jumped on LinkedIn to get a job. They were making connections all over the place. And they said, I know it sounds a little cheesy, but start hitting people up on LinkedIn, no joke. And once we see that you were in or you did schooling with so and so, we kind of already trust you and we're kind of already sharing stories with you that we wouldn't tell anybody else. And
Sure.
I started using it and I think it was honestly one of the most eye-opening experiences and liberating experiences I had, especially in the finding a job industry, finding a job.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think resource-wise, um, the LinkedIn and leveraging that network, like I'm willing to bet most veterans have a network, they just don't know they have yet,
Yes.
Sure.
right? because they're not used to having to leverage it, right? So that is more important than from my perspective. That is more important than boot camps. That is more important than skill translation, than like translating your resume. You have a network, use it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And if
That is-
we can't help you directly, then I
Yeah.
guarantee you know someone who can.
Absolutely. We'll point you in the right direction.
Yeah.
Let's help each other out. So that's awesome. Thank you all. As our time comes to a close, we're at 12:45 right now. I just want to thank you all. It's been a pleasure talking with each of you. And a huge thank you for doing this and speaking on behalf of our community here at Coinbase. So, thanks to everyone who tuned in, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Greg.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.